everyone. This is Rebecca Bullen here at Mission Moroto with another Secrets of Ministry. So one of the questions I get asked the most, I think, about our ministry here in Uganda at Mission Moroto, or even when I was in Zambia, and when me and my dad traveled to Rwanda, one of the questions we get asked the absolute most is it safe? And the question always confuses me because I want to ask the people who are asking this question, why are you even concerned about that? Why are you asking that question? Is it safe? Is the Christian life supposed to be safe? And some people would say, yes, that's the Christian life is supposed to be safe. But they get that notion because of false teachings and the lies from the devil. The devil's number one lie that he likes to tell us when it comes to our Christian life is that anything you do that makes you nervous or that is a risk is not correct. His number one thing that he tries to get you to do is to be afraid, to stop God's work in your life out of fear. You don't do something because you're afraid to do it. You don't do something because you're afraid of the risk. You're afraid that it's not going to work out. And God is the exact opposite. The number one command that God gives us in the Bible is do not be afraid. And because fear is the exact opposite of faith. When we walk in faith, we are not afraid. And that doesn't mean you know how everything's going to work out, because if you knew how everything's going to work out, then you wouldn't have to walk in faith. Faith is the hope, the evidence of things that you hope for. The faith is believing in something you can't see. And so if you could see it and you wouldn't have to be afraid of how it was going to work out, then you're not walking in faith. And the Christian life is not supposed to be prosperity gospel. That's not the Christian life. The prosperity gospel is the exact opposite of the Christian faith. In the Gospels, Jesus tells his disciples, "You're going to be beaten, you're going to be flogged, you're going to be dragged before the Sanhedrin. They're going to kill some of you for me, but have good courage. Afterwards, I will take you into heaven, and you'll be with me for all eternity." So the Christian life is supposed to be prosperity. Yes, however you say that, prosperous. The Christian faith life is supposed to be prosperous, but not on this world, not here. It's supposed to be there. We are building treasures in heaven where moth and rust do not corrupt, where thieves can't break and steal. That's where our treasures are supposed to be. If we're keeping treasures here on earth, then we were afraid that somebody can come and take them. But if you're building treasures in heaven, what are you afraid of? God can keep what you're depositing up there in heaven. And the way we deposit things up in heaven is through our actions here on earth, our sacrifices for the gospel, going out and living the life God has asked us. Because if you say you're a follower of Jesus, how are you a follower of Jesus unless you actually live the life that Jesus lived? Jesus didn't have a home. Jesus walked from village to village preaching the gospel. He never had a permanent home. He didn't have a 401k to give to his children because he didn't keep up. He didn't have a job to take care of his mother. His mother had to follow him around and have whatever he had, eat whatever he ate. His disciple John was the one he gave his mother to take care of on the cross. He never thought about this life, because if he thought about this life, he wouldn't have gone to the cross. He would not have died, and he would not have preached what he preached. You think Jesus could have saved himself if he wanted to? Of course he could have. First of all, the first way he could have saved himself was not preaching what he preached. But then why would he have been here on earth? The second way, he says, even on the cross, I can call down legions from heaven and to save me, many angels, legions of angels to save me, but then I wouldn't be doing the will of my Father in heaven. And we are, as Christians, are supposed to do the will of our Father in heaven. And what is that will? To go to make disciples of all nations, baptize them in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, and to teach them everything God has taught us. That is our number one mission, and that is not supposed to be safe. If your Christian life if you're not getting persecuted in your Christian life, you ask yourself, am I actually following Jesus, who was persecuted his whole entire ministry? Am I actually walking the way Jesus walked if I've never been persecuted, if nobody has ever laughed at me, if my life has no evidences of sacrifice, then how can I say I'm following somebody who sacrificed everything? his whole entire life. He left heaven. He left the blessed place in the universe to come and be with us. And we have to be willing to leave our safe environments, our comfortability, to go and do his work, to bring others to the saving knowledge of him. That is what the Christian life is supposed to be. So no, it's not supposed to be safe. If your Christian life is safe, then who are you following? Because I'm following the man who was so unsafe that they killed him after 3.5 years of ministry. I've been in ministry for more than 10 years, and I haven't died yet, so I'm not as radical as Jesus was. And that is what you are supposed to cling to. One of the verses that is so helpful to me, that encourages me a lot. And when I come down with sickness, when I'm having troubles, when life is a struggle, I go and read Hebrews 11. All of Hebrews 11, of course, but especially the end, verses 30, starting in 32. It says, "What more can we say? Time is too short to tell you about Gideon, Samson, David, Samuel, and the prophets, who by faith conquered kingdoms, administered justice, obtained promises, shut the mouths of lions, quenched the raging of the fire, escaped the edge of the sword, gained strength after being weak, became mighty in battle, and put foreign armies to flight. Women received their dead back. They were raised again to life. Some men were tortured, not accepting to be released, so that they might gain a better resurrection." That is what we're looking for, a better resurrection. "And others experienced mocking and scourging. They were bonded and put in prison. They were stoned. They were sawed in two. They died by the sword. They wandered about in sheepskin and goatskin, destitute, afflicted, and mistreated, and the world was not worthy of them. They wandered in deserts and in mountains, hid in caves and in holes in the ground." All of these did that because of their faith, because they were looking for a better resurrection. If you are looking for this life, you want cars, you want a good 401k, you want a good salary, you want to make sure your house is the perfect house, the showman's house, then that is your resurrection. That's all you're going to get. That's everything you will have. But if you're looking for a better resurrection, if you want a better life that God promises is in heaven, you're willing to give up all of that to do the work of what God is asking you to do, to sacrifice for God. Because when we sacrifice for God, we're not actually sacrificing for God. We're depositing in heaven. It's a sacrifice here on earth, but we have a better resurrection. We're depositing in heaven things that we can't even imagine. We can't imagine what it's going to be like when we reach heaven. All the times you've had malaria, all the times you've had typhoid, all the times you've had to go without the food you want, or shower in cold water. That's nothing compared to what God is going to give us in heaven. It's nothing. It's like one of our famous writers wrote about. He says, we play around in this world with all the things this world can give us. Sex and drugs and alcohol and food and clothing, because we can't imagine what God is promising us in heaven. It's like a child being willing to play in the mud because they don't know what a holiday at the sea is going to be like. They don't know what it's going to be like, so they're willing to play in the mud because they can't imagine what is promised them in a holiday at the sea. And that is what when we're too afraid to do the work of God. That's what we're saying. We don't want to do. We don't want the better resurrection God's promised us. We don't want the rewards God's promised us, because we want to see it with our own eyes, or touch it with these hands, and that's all enough for us. It's not enough for me, and it shouldn't be enough for you. God has so much more for you. So don't play around in mud because of what God could give you in heaven. He has so much more for you. C.S. Lewis is the one who wrote that, and it's one of my favorite quotations about what the Christian life, what God is really promising you. He has so much more for you, so don't live in fear. Throw fear to the wind, throw caution to the wind, and step out in faith. Risk, because you know God is going to be there for you. It's not that you're risking because you just want to be, you don't want to take care of yourself. No, you're risking because you know who you're risking for. God is worth betting on. God is worth throwing everything to the wind and say, I'm going to do what he wants me to do, because he is so good and he's going to take care of me. He's going to accomplish it. When Peter stepped out of the boat to walk on water, he knew who he was walking to. And if you know who you're walking to, it doesn't matter what storm you're in. It doesn't matter how scary it is to get out of the boat, because you know who you're walking to. You know who you're risking for. You know that what he promised, he is faithful to fulfill. Love you all.